So is he making mistakes already that you all are making him work with the Board of Adjustment? Is this punishment?
We love this board.
But you know we make staff work hard.
It's okay. I've just gotten to know you all very well. But yeah, so I'll still be here working with you guys. Martin will now be the presenter. He's our senior planner. He's my supervisor. And so he'll be the person up here now. He just couldn't make it today.
So who's presenting today?
I am.
Very good. Yep.
The clock's off. Just
This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Adjustment, City of Brownsville. Today is March 11th, 2020. It's 5:30. This meeting is open to the public. To my far left is Vice Chairman Roy De Los Santos. To my left is Dylan Vanderford. To my right is Martin Metzger. Our fifth board member, who's not able to get up here, is on the left there, is Maria Alicia Loya. And sitting on her left is our Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Eva Daniel. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. De Los Santos.
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We made got together with the Vice Chairman, and we made a couple changes that we're going to institute today, and as I get to them, I'll describe them to you. One of them is that we're going to move open to the public comment at this stage, so the public as well has a chance to comment on our minutes. So I'm opening this meeting, this meeting is open to the public, and I'm opening it to public comment now for the next item on the agenda, or the first item on the agenda, which is approval of the minutes. Does any board member not have a copy of the minutes? Or you did not see a copy of the minutes? Everybody has seen a copy of the minutes. Are there any changes, additions, corrections? I know we had one, but I think we all have an updated minutes now. Okay, the minutes look good. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes then?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as corrected several days ago. All those in favor say aye.
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 The minutes are approved. We're going to, I'm going to ask for a motion to close the public comment because we're going to go into hearings now. Could I get a motion to close the public comment?
So moved.
Second, please.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second to close the public comment. We're going to start our hearings. And so we're going to look at our first case tonight, which is case number 2020-003V on the public hearings on the agenda as item number 2. Ms. Leal, please.
Good evening. Case number 2020-003V, public hearing and action to consider a variance from Chapter 320, Article 2, sidewalk facilities, to exempt the property from a right-of-way sidewalk along Lomax Road, 1.25 acres out of Block 5, Olmito Garden Subdivision, Unit 1, located at 9686 Lomax Road, as requested by Adolfo Valderas. Chapter 320, Article 2 is our sidewalk facilities. It requires that sidewalks be 4 feet in width and located adjacent to and parallel to the property line with a minimum unpaved parkway width of 4 feet. This is an aerial photograph of the property in question. This is the 200-foot buffer. We do send out the notice of the public hearing out to the people who reside within this 200-foot buffer. This is the site plan. It is a proposed single-family dwelling. And this is a close-up. These are photographs that were submitted by the applicant. He does have an arrow pointing to where there is a swell. in the surrounding areas. This area of Brownsville, it's down by 803. There are no sidewalks in the neighborhood. These are photographs that were taken by staff. This is the property. Another angle of the property. The other side of the same angle. I mean, sorry, the opposite side of the last angle. And this is a picture of the street leading up to that property. And this is the video. We're going to see if it works. There's been a change in computers, so we're going to try to get it going.
It's your first test, Alan.
It's playing on my computer, I see it. So, yeah.
Yeah, they just changed this laptop right here, so. It was uploaded to the FTP.
Yes, I saw it on the FTP.
Okay. Would you like for us to move on?
Please.
Now it's frozen thinking about the video.
No, you're moving it on.
On yours. Should I try it again?
It stays stuck on
Press escape again. Is anything happening? Oh, there we go. Grounds for granting a variance. So the Board of Adjustment may grant a variance pursuant to Texas Local Government Code 211.009 if the following criteria are met. The variance is not contrary to public interest. Due to special conditions, the literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship, and the granting of the variance will be in accordance with the spirit of the zoning ordinance. Our staff recommendation, staff supports granting the variance request to exempt the property from right-of-way sidewalk along Lomax Road.
Any questions for Ms. Leo or Mr. Gosses?
No.
Is the only reason you're recommending to grant this is because of the ditch, because of the borough?
Yes, sir. There are no other existing sidewalks. It is a low-traffic area, not a lot of pedestrians in that area as well, and there is a swale that would be affecting the location of the sidewalk.
Fine. The meeting is open to public hearing. If anybody out there would like to come up, please come on up. And this way you could discuss the application. Please state your name nice and slow so I can, no, at the
In the
podium.
microphone,
At the podium.
please.
Please state your name nice and slow so I can hear it.
Craig Tyser.
Tyser?
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
Any relation to Carl Tyser?
yes. He's a
to high
nephew.
school. I went to high school with Carl. Played tennis with him.
You want me to go ahead?
Please.
Okay. I live next door at 9690. In fact, you saw it in the picture there. And we've probably been there 20 years. And I've looked forward to the day when that street was going to get formally paved and sidewalks put in, city irrigation, not irrigation, but drainage. We all have drainage districts out there right now. And I don't really know why the person wants the exemption, but I'm opposed to it. People right now that walk out there have to walk in the street. So that's another reason I'm looking forward to the sidewalk. And I don't know what's going to be there we're going to have to walk around or walk over, or to me, it just changed the whole aesthetics of the location. If you got sidewalks everywhere, all along Lomax, except for that one location. So I really don't understand why they want to do it, but I am opposed to it on that basis, not really knowing what it's going to be and what we'd have to walk across without going out in the road to get by.
Did you say that there are sidewalks on other properties adjacent?
No, there are not.
There's not, okay.
There are no sidewalks out there at all.
Including your property?
Right.
Any questions?
I mean, this was the first
Yeah,
hearing, I mean, the first time I'd ever even heard that there was
Yeah.
a thought of putting sidewalks out there. So I hope that's still a plan. But that was my comment.
we hear what you're saying.
Okay.
I appreciate it, Mr. Tyser. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Any questions for
Thank
Mr.
you.
Tyser?
No.
Okay, is there anybody else, is the applicant here, Ms. Leo?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, anybody else want to speak on this particular application? Okay, Mr. Leo's point is well taken. It's something that I've said in the past. The ordinance was prepared to put sidewalks where there are no sidewalks. If we don't put, and of course, I know there's a borough there, but meanwhile, that could be fixed too. But if we don't put sidewalks for the reason that there are no sidewalks, we're not going to have sidewalks. So there's merit to what he's saying. Does anyone have any other questions for the city? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I have a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second? I have a second from Mr. Metzger. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Public hearing is now closed. We're open for discussion on this case and this application by the board. What do you think?
I think consistent with what we've done in the past, we've always been very pro sidewalks, and I think we need them more than we see in our city, but especially in a situation like this where you've got that swell there, it doesn't make sense to put one there. It would interfere with the drainage. And then if you've got it further inset from the road, then it's not in compliance with ordinance anyway. In the hopes that in the future, the city will put in curbs and gutters, I would suggest we grant the variance to remain in effect until such time as there are curbs and gutters on Lomax Road.
Any other comments? I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
One of the other things that we were making a little change today, and I have gotten together with the vice chairman on this, is when a motion is made such as this, what the chair is going to do is going to repeat the motion as it's submitted from the city. So it states exactly for the filming, for the audio, and for a record exactly what we're approving. So we have a motion. I'm expanding on what Mr. De Los Santos said, to allow a 12.8-foot encroachment.
No, wrong one.
Oops, wrong one. Grab the wrong one. To exempt the property from right-of-way sidewalk along Lomax Road, 1.25 acres out of Block 5, Omito Gardens subdivision, Unit 1, located at 9686 Lomax Roads, until that time when there are curbs and gutters built by the city in that area, at which time the variance would end. Do I have a second?
I will second that motion.
I have a motion to approve the application as I read it, and the second. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any no? It passes unanimously. Thank you for coming before the board, sir. Appreciate it. And now we go to our second case on the agenda, which is case number 2020-004V. Go ahead, Ms.
Case-
Leo.
Thank you. Case number 2020-004-B, public hearing action to consider a variance from Chapter 348, Section 348, 892 yards, to allow a 12.8-foot encroachment along the northeast side of the property at Lot 3, Block 71A, Stillman Extension, located at 325 West Levy Street, as requested by Leo Barrera. Section 348, 892 yards, in an H area district, yards shall be provided as follows. There shall be a front yard along the front line of the lot. The minimum depth of each front yard shall be 25 feet for residential buildings and 0 feet for other buildings.
We up here right now. Wanna leave it off for a little bit?
This is where there should be an aerial of the property in question at 325
I think it was
West Levy
snowing
Street.
that day.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you see it on yours? No?
It was on the FTP chart.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was on there just a minute ago when we were scanning through.
If I'm clicking on the slide and nothing happens, you don't have control, do you guys control over it?
No, nothing's happening over here.
And for the benefit of the audience, most of us on the board have already seen the packet, which includes all of the attachments submitted by both the applicant and put together by staff.
Can you escape out of it?
Well, as Mr. De Los Santos says, we have seen it, so if you need to work on the technology later, you can do that.
So the encroachment at this property, this is owned by CDCB. The encroachment was 12.8 feet. There was a house there for a long time, and the setback on that house was about 17 feet. The city of Brownsville is working on a unified development code, and a lot of the changes that are coming are to assist in the transition from a residential zone closer into a commercial area. So you want to have these transitions, and part of that is bringing structures up to the front of the property and having parking in the rear. This happens in a few other communities, and it is in the direction that the city is moving. With the approval, our staff recommendation is to approve the encroachment of 12.8 feet to allow for this transition and prepare us for the new unified development code that the city is writing with assistance from Friesen Nichols, which is a consultant group. This will now be a triplex. If you have driven by there and you saw the state of the house that it was in very poor condition. And so CDCB has demolished it and will be building a triplex that would be encroaching 12.8 feet with parking in the rear.
So the building that's in the photos is going to be raised completely?
Yes, it already has been.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, and right next to it is a commercial business. It's Serafi Laboratories. Oh, here we go. Here's the, here's the aerial. This is the 200-foot buffer. We did have a few people call us just to ask what was going on. The neighbor right next door, which is Serafi Laboratories, Mr. Serafi did call us just to get an update on what was going on. And as soon as we explained it, he was very happy with what the project was going. He says he's worked with CDCB before and that he trusts that whatever they're going to do would be helping the neighborhood out as well. So this is a proposed site plan. As you can see towards the bottom, I'm not even going to try it. I shouldn't have tried. Can you move that? There we go. Thank you. So this is the proposed site plan. The encroachment would be 12.8 feet.
And why specifically do they need that encroachment? Is that because they want to put parking in the rear?
Yes, sir. That would allow for the parking in the rear.
Go ahead.
Has it been done before with other, it's going to be a commercial building?
Yes, sir. Any apartment or any unit with any building with 3 units or more is considered apartments. And I believe apartments can be considered commercial.
Hang on, then we've got a conflict here, and that may be incorrect, because if the ordinance says it's 25 feet for residential and 0 for other, if this isn't residential, then it doesn't require a variance, because it's 0.
According to our senior planner, Mr. Martin Vega, we would still need to go through with this.
So we're saying it's residential then?
We're considering
Land
it.
use is apartments, and that is considered residential. Commercial comes with the building permit itself and how the appraisal district labels their
Okay.
their use. But as far as planning is concerned, it's residential.
Residential, okay.
Wouldn't it be easier to rezone this than go through this process? Or is this part of the rezoning process?
Well, staff right now, as what I mentioned, we're working on actually making our zoning a little bit easier, because right now we have so many different types of zonings. On top of that, we also have the use districts, that makes it a little bit more complicated and have all these different layers of zoning. But what we're doing is basically combining our commercial zones into two. Everything that we got is going into two. And its apartments would be allowed, and they would have a zero setback just like any other commercial building there. But right now, we don't know that's coming through yet. So at this point, the applicant had already submitted all the paperwork for the variance, and he wanted to move forward. So that's why we're moving with this process. Also, we don't know for sure if City Commission will approve our recommendation for that zoning yet.
The plan is to get to that point, but because we're not there just yet, this is also part of the reason that we were supporting, this is part of the reason why we're saying to support this encroachment.
Assuming that our recommendation for the zoning change goes through and it's approved by City Commission, this wouldn't be needed. But because we don't know yet, and the applicant already spent time doing this, so that's the only reason why we're moving forward.
So here's the challenge for our board. That a code may be coming in the future that would account for this is great, but what's the hardship today?
So the existing structure that was already there was already encroaching. This is already encroaching, this would be encroaching as well, like the previous structure, so it had already been established. To allow for the required parking spaces, they're moving it forward. But our support comes from moving towards the Unified Development Code.
And
Yeah.
from a staff position, that makes perfect
Yes.
sense. But the hurdle for us is we have to identify that there would be a hardship by not granting this, and I'm hard pressed to see what the hardship is here. Is the current structure the exact same encroachment as what's being requested?
No, it would be, the previous structure was at 17 feet. Can you move it over to the pictures? So the previous structure, the house that was there, was about 17 feet. The new structure would be about 12 feet away.
12 feet from the property line? So the new structure would encroach even further?
It would encroach further, yes, sir.
Then, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, we would need to see what the hardship is, and I don't see it right now, because what could come in code in law later is still hypothetical. It's not there today. And there's no guarantees that it'll get approved the way we're hoping, that the way it's intended. And aside from that, because this isn't gonna affect how I would vote on this case, but I would caution the city also, because I've seen other cities make this mistake, and I've seen Brownsville make this mistake on Pablo Giselle already, where we build up to the property lines, and then we realize this street isn't wide enough, but we've got no room to grow. And that's why Pablo Giselle is just a holy mess. There should be 2 lanes in each direction and turning lanes everywhere, and it's just chaos in there because it was poorly planned, and we allowed businesses to build all the way up to the end. But yeah, for purposes of this case, I think a hardship is something we need to hang our hat on.
You
So
said
we-
Zarafi Labs was right next door,
Yes, sir.
and are they built up to a similar setback?
Theirs is actually, they have a parking spot, if I can go.
They're commercial also. This is residential.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Maybe different
theirs
standard.
is everything, there's a parking lot right to the right of the red square, and then you cross the trail, and their property continues all the way into the corner.
Okay.
All the way into the corner. Part of their building is right up to the property line. The parking spot is on the corner of Second and Levy. There's a little mini parking space in front of their building, and then the rest of it is parking for their employees, I believe.
Yeah, but as you say, it's hard to compare them to that one.
Yeah, commercial to residential, as we see ordinance even distinguishes completely between the two.
Let's come back to this. They want the encroachment so they can put the parking in the back.
Yes, sir.
How do you shake a hardship out of that? Can either one of you help us shake a hardship out of the desire to have the parking in the back? If we can't shake a hardship out of that, then you see our problem.
So
Please?
we do have the applicants here,
Excellent.
if
Okay.
you would like to open public hearing.
I
As-
thought you guys were students from the college. We usually get students come in right at
We
the
just had it
beginning of
moved to
meetings.
public hearing, so I was like, well, I'll wait.
Well, we were interested in listening to you. So we'll open up for public hearing. The applicant is welcome first, as a matter of fact, to please come on up to the podium. Please state your names.
Good evening, I'm Luis Murillo. I'm one of the designers from BC Workshop for this project.
And I'm Leo Borrero with CDCB. I'm the construction manager for the organization.
Okay.
So we're right there with you. When we applied for the ordinance, we were struggling to find the hardship as well. But if you've seen the neighborhood and you've seen what has gone through your check boxes, there's a lot of duplexes. There's some fourplexes in the area, and they all check the box of, you know, being able to be built in the area. What our concern is that the new construction you see going on there isn't aligned with what was there and what is existing there, the older houses that you see. And so we'd really like to try to bring what the neighborhood used to look like back. And part of that is designing in a bit of a different way. So we don't have any elevations of the new building, but from the street, it looks like a home, a two-story home. It's gonna be built with hardy, so it's not wood siding, but it does look like siding. And so it looks just like an older home from the neighborhood that used to be there. And by designing in that way, not only with the parking, we do need the parking in the back because we have 3 or more, you know, we have to adhere by X amount of parking spaces. And with the size of the lot we have, that's a bit difficult. So by putting parking in the rear, that does help. But making the house look like it's not just a regular new construction, you know, having it look like it was something from the 30s or the 40s is our hope.
Could you go back and repeat what you said about the parking in the front versus the parking in the back? You went over it a little quickly from my ear. Please, say it again.
So not only do we need the parking in the back, because there's just not room, it would look very awkward with all that parking in the front and then the house itself pushed far back. It would just look a bit awkward. So we're trying with design, make it look like a house that was in the neighborhood in the 30s and in the 40s. And so
So something I wanted to say is, so we had to go through historic review revision for this house, and something that was brought up is having parking spaces in front of the house was not gonna comply with like a historic aesthetic for the neighborhood. So that's why we sent the parking to the back, causing the whole design to move forward to the front yard.
Did the historic board send anything on this case?
They did not. This case was taken back when I was still working with the Historic Preservation Board. They were very happy with the design. They did have recommendations, adding shutters, very basic thing, adding shutters to the windows, maybe changing the way the stairs look to make it look a little bit more historic, the way Mr. Barrera has just mentioned. And that is one of their concerns, is that a lot of our historic neighborhoods, parking has been taking forward has been slowly moved to the front of the home or other duplexes in the area or apartments, and it takes away from the aesthetic and the feel of the rest of the community, which is not designated, but it is considered a historic designation, or not designation, historic overlay.
So in order to be in compliance with the Historic Association, they had to put these parking in the rear of the property, and to comply with the number needed for the size of building, the number of apartments being built, they had to encroach this amount in order to get those number of parking spaces? Is that what I'm hearing?
I believe that was one of the recommendations from the Historic Preservation.
A recommendation, but not,
No, so when they put up forward a recommendation, they vote on it, and then I believe that was what they voted on. I could not say 100% sure because I did not go and check the minutes of that meeting. But also the certificate of appropriateness that will be given or will be given. It's already given, has been given by Juan Velez, the Historic Preservation Officer as well. And also the parking requirements, as we have mentioned already, we are moving towards an updated code and parking because we've had this issue in the past with developments coming in, whether it's a new single-family home, whether it's a commercial plaza, anything in between, we have to meet required parking spaces. And so that, with these not historical, but older communities or neighborhoods, our lots are a lot smaller than would allow for more than the parking required, or would limit the parking required. And so that's something that's going to be changing as well.
Yeah, for the future, if you could foresee that there's going to be a need for a variance, if you get anything in writing from, as this case, the Historical Society, Historical Board, it would help us a lot if we had that. Anything else, gentlemen?
Nope, just, we got the site plan up, but you can see we have a huge porch in the front. And like I said, we're just trying to bring some design into these newer builds, and we're hoping that, because of that, you'd be willing to grant that.
We applaud what you're doing. It's just we're bound by statute to look for a hardship when it comes to giving a variance on a city ordinance. So in effect, you're breaking the ordinance. Thank you very much.
Let me ask one more question.
Yes.
Because when we were talking about hardship and you said, I want to try, can I come up and try and explain that? And I don't know that I heard a hardship yet.
Yeah,
I understand where
I
you guys are going, and I commend you guys on the design, and I commend the Historic Overlay Board because I know what they're trying to do, and they're going for a great aesthetic.
Yeah.
We don't have that luxury of saying this would look nicer than this.
Yeah.
Our standard is there's got to be a hardship. So do we have anything that,
Yeah, I'd circle back to it being involved around design. So if you look at the new construction that's being built around that area, right, on that side of Palm, the new construction isn't great in my opinion. I realize that's just an opinion. But it's done that way because the developers and the builders are forced to based on
the ordinance?
on the ordinances and the requirements. And then by doing so, you have new construction that just doesn't fit the fabric of the neighborhood. And so with this design, we're hoping to, bring back that older fabric of the neighborhood. And so I don't have all the definition of what exactly you get to count as a hardship, but maybe
We
that's.
actually had a slide on that, but we didn't see it yet.
Let's pull up that one.
Because then maybe my plan B is,
There we go.
So you definitely check the boxes. This is not contrary to public interest. This is absolutely in the public interest. But due to special conditions, literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship. And I think that's the one we're having trouble getting over.
The special conditions are being created by you. If you were building a single-family residence, you wouldn't need as much parking, correct? Right.
And plus, even with the current design, it wouldn't be aesthetically pleasing to historic, but we could absolutely accommodate that number of parking spaces at the front of the property if the building were moved back, correct?
Well, would it then be encroaching on the rear setback? If it were moved back to accommodate in the front?
It's not the same setback for the rear yard, no.
Well, I know it wouldn't be the same setback, but would it be encroaching?
If they lessen their units?
No.
No, if they put the
just
parking in the front.
Park in the front, building in the back. Could they accommodate the same number of parking spaces?
I wouldn't be able to tell depending on the size of the property, if the actual structure, if they lessened the size of the structure, then I don't believe so, but it might be the same thing if you're just flipping the
If you're
design.
just flipping.
Yeah, because the front setback, no matter what, is 25. The rear setback can be anything between 5 feet, 3 feet, and in some large properties up to 25 feet. Here in downtown, it's usually,
It's 3, almost 4.
yeah, I believe the setback here is,
3.5 feet for
yes,
the back?
3.5 feet.
Yeah.
All right, don't go away. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this case? Anybody here for? All right. Since we're wrestling with this, let me read this. These are reasons for hardship because we are wrestling with this, and under perfect circumstances, we'd like to do what we can to help it. Reasons for hardship: the property differs from others in area, size, shape, or slope. The property different from others in area cannot be developed to the same extent as other properties in the area, must be unique, not common to other properties, must be oppressive, the variance would create substantial justice. That is the definitions of what we're looking for. So again, I read that for you to throw that out to see if the city as well, if you can help us with any of that.
So there are other properties in the surrounding neighborhood. For example, the corner lot on that same block is a fourplex that has been there for quite some time. Similar in the area. Obviously, it's been there for, I don't even know how long. It's been there for a very long time. So there are some similar properties that this one would not be able to be developed to the same standard. But this one would also allow for parking in the rear, whereas the fourplex doesn't have any parking at all.
Do you know
This
that
is
the
a
fourplex is encroaching on their setbacks?
Yes, sir. Most of the structures within this neighborhood are encroaching on the setbacks because a lot of these homes were built before our ordinances were created.
Including the one that was torn down.
Okay.
Yes. So the majority of the houses in these neighborhoods, and also some of the lots are a lot smaller. You see a lot of the half lots in downtown, either 50 by 100 and 120, or sometimes we even have 25-foot lots throughout downtown.
We've seen that.
Yeah, and
several
they've
times.
come here to the board as well, just because they're just so old and it was before we really had any kind of zoning ordinance in place.
So this building would be placed in a similar manner to other structures in the area?
Yes, sir. It would be either right at the line, maybe a little bit forward or a little bit behind some of the buildings in the area. If we go back to the picture, if it works.
What we're seeing here with the site plan is that the applicant tried to be consistent with what's in the area, trying to keep the character. And I believe that's what was issued by the historic board with their certificate of appropriateness. If for whatever reason this is not approved, they would have to go back to them and see what they could work out
Yeah.
and see how they're going to move forward.
One of the requirements of the Historic Preservation Board is that photos of the surrounding area, much like you all, photos of the surrounding area, they want to be consistent with the feel of the neighborhood. They want to know what's surrounding. Is it a stucco house that's coming in when there's only hardy plank homes in the area? Is it a two-story when there's only single-story homes? And so those are things that get looked at when they're approving. So they do go through a very similar process as you do in making
And that would be
decisions.
great if they had prepared a report for us.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
they
My
didn't.
apologies.
They never do.
Any other questions or comments from
And
the board?
in looking at the aerials from that, it looks like the residential properties to the side of this one both seem to adhere to the same type of setback. And let me share with you gentlemen also, because the first case that came before us, that's pretty routine that we see on sidewalks. We didn't grill staff on that for a hardship, only because we've established over several cases that what happens there is it's not practical for the owner to be able to do it because it would be interfering with irrigation.
Correct.
And also, if they build it right up against the road and then the city comes in to put in curbs and gutters, the city would be demolishing the improvements the homeowner made.
Yep.
And that's why we feel it's unfair to require them to do that right now, but the expectation is still that once curbs and gutters are in, they have to go back and then they do incur that expense. Because there's nothing that would warrant waiving sidewalk requirements completely for them. It's only fair to do it until there are curbs and gutters in place. But that's why you didn't hear more discussion about hardship on the previous case.
That makes sense.
Go ahead, Mr. Lamb.
What I'm saying is, I would like to recommend to the applicants, if they would need more time to do maybe more research, or maybe to actually get the letter from the Historic Preservation Officer or the Historic Preservation Board. I don't know if they would like to request for this to be tabled until we can come back and give you something a little bit more.
Mr. De Los Santos, how do you feel about that? You're more familiar.
I'd be comfortable tabling if the applicant's interested in some additional time to try and build a case for hardship. I know that's tough because time is money when it comes to construction and building, and I understand that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So a couple questions, then would I have to pay another application fee?
No.
Okay. And then the other question, I could present more photos of the neighborhood. I mean, I just don't know if that's enough. I mean, I'd love to do it, but at the end of the day,
It's going to be a tough hurdle to get to.
yeah, does it matter enough to prepare that much stuff for you guys? I mean, I'd love to do it if you think it's gonna help my case.
Well, and the thing is, it's not going to be about quantity. All you need is one small thing, whatever it is. But one small thing that says this would be the hardship. Whether
Yeah.
it's photos, anything else, we just need one thing. And I think that's what's lacking here.
We've gone over with you the elements that we have to address, the conditions we have to address by the law, okay?
Yeah.
So if you feel you can come up, as Mr. De Los Santos says, with one item, working with the city will help you in any way they can,
Okay.
to come up with an item. You could be back here next month, and it may be able to work better. It's up to you.
Okay, well then maybe I can ask another question, if it's okay.
Sure.
Sure?
Going back to the original, a comment you brought up earlier about this is apartments, it is residential, but it is being treated as commercial. And so it's like, okay, where's the clear definition there? Because maybe,
And let me speak to that for just a
Yeah.
second. Where that would come into play as far as this board is concerned is if this were considered commercial, wouldn't even come to us. There'd be no variance necessary at all. We wouldn't get involved in this. We're only involved because it's residential.
There is, so as Alan mentioned earlier, it's based on land use. This particular property does have a different zoning requirement from some of the other properties within that same neighborhood. If you look at our zoning map, it's even a different color. And I believe that was done through possibly a specific use permit at some point. But it has allowed for this to be, but it is considered it is being treated as a residential, which is why we are here today.
And for the rest of the neighborhood, the 25-foot setback is the standard? On the front?
Yes. Generally, throughout the entire city, it's about a 25-foot setback.
But that that ordinance was passed well after those houses were built, so probably none in that neighborhood are in compliance.
That is
Legal
correct.
non-conforming.
Yeah, they're legally non-conforming. If they were to come in, for example, if that fourplex, which when he received the notice for this meeting, he came in, if he wanted to update it, if he wanted to renovate it, change it, anything at all, he would have to come into compliance. And he would still have to come here to this board because
For a variance
for a
based on
variance
what's already
because
there.
he's now making changes to it, so it would lose its legally non-conforming status.
And just so that you guys are aware, it's always easier to renovate an existing facility that's encroaching than to demolish it completely and build something new that's going to encroach again. 'Cause
yeah,
you
totally
usually get
understand.
grandfathered.
The old unit was so substandard that it
Well,
was
it's
just,
probably not
yeah,
a
it's
possibility,
feasibly, yeah,
but
feasibly not possible, yeah.
And let me say, out of all the variances we've heard over the years, if there was one I'd really like to just say, let's go ahead and grant this one, this would be one of them, because I really commend you guys for what you're trying to do, and I think it's important for the city. But I think this also shows the urgency for the city to make the changes that have been needed for so long in our codes. And I know staff is working very hard on that.
And of course, as much as we'd like to see the city do a lot of things, you have to make a decision on your particular application. So what would you like to do? You want to proceed with this board and have us take a vote as to whether you get the variance or not?
Think about it this way.
Or, go ahead.
You're not there today, so you'd be leaving here without a variance most likely. If you've got 30 days, maybe you'll be able to find something. It may not make a difference, but at least you've got the opportunity to try and find something. It won't cost you any more other than time.
Okay.
All right, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Any other questions or comments? If there's no other questions or comments, we'll close the public hearing. I'll
So
accept,
moved.
okay, and a second to close the public hearing?
Just,
Go ahead,
if
go
we
ahead.
table it, yeah, if we could table it.
All right,
come
fine.
back.
I was going to do that anyway.
Yeah, okay, great. Just wanted to make sure.
We weren't going to deny it.
I'll second the motion to close the public hearing
All right,
portion.
is there, we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing? Good. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Very, very good. Any other Discussion, or do you want to go to a motion? It's up to the board.
I'll move to table.
Okay. On this particular case, case 2020-004V, applicant Mr. Barrera and others, the board is going to take up a motion to table this to a future date. Do I have a second? You made a motion.
I made the
Did
motion.
you have a second?
If you table this, are you going to be able to bring it back again?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And that'll mean that they don't have to apply for the variance again and
Permit, yeah.
don't have to pay any fees.
Right. Second?
Second.
Any other discussion on tabling? Any, fine, then we'll go to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I wish you good luck.
Good luck.
We go to the next item on the agenda. Before we go to the next item on the agenda, I'm going to open it up for public comment. So as we discuss the next item on the agenda, the public has the opportunity to comment. Next item on the agenda is amendment for our rules of procedure. Does anyone need a hard copy? Anybody would like a hard copy? Ms. Leal has sent out email copies of the proposed wording on this amendment. Would anybody like a hard copy before we begin? Okay, fine. Couple things. If you recall, back at our November meeting, Mr. De Los Santos had prepared, also we received from our attorney, two different wording on the question of adding an amendment under the heading of attendance. And we called that version 2.1 and version 2.2, and I submitted one, we called that version 2.3. So the first thing I'd like to do is the wording you have in front of you, let's refer to that as 2.4, so this way we don't have to read the entire thing, assuming we get a chance to vote on it and approve it, or not approve it. We'll just refer to this as version 2.4 of today's date. Now, let me add one other thing. As it turns out, coincidentally, in our rules of procedure, where this particular amendment is going to go, is section 2.4. So please do not confuse the fact that I'm referring to this version as 2.4, and it's also going to be placed under section 2.4 in our rules of procedure. So, as it indicates, we're open for public comment as well, and open this up to any members of the board, anyone here. You have the wording. Any comment or discussion on the proposed wording?
Council opinion on the language?
Legally, I see it's fine. It's been addressed in statute in regard to 211.008. That was my only concern. Other than that, I have no issues with it, the way it's worded.
And just let me double check. You took a look at the one that Ms. Leo sent out. You going by that, which she?
Yes, the one that was attached to the email, this one right here?
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Yes, 2.4?
Yeah, because there might have been a slight change, but what Ms. Leo sent out was the final. Good, okay,
It was added to the FTP
fine,
and sent out through email.
Right.
okay.
I didn't
So-
see it on the FTP,
Oh,
but
then it
it
was sent out through
was
email.
sent through an email
Yes.
as a separate document.
So everyone has read it?
Yeah.
We got a blessing from the council. Any other comments?
I have none.
I'll move to approve.
Very good. Mr. De Los Santos moves to approve the amendment to our rules of procedure to become section 2.4 with a heading of attendance, as submitted as of today's date, version 2.4. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion to approve our wording for attendance, and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, and council, keep me in line here. I think because this is going to be an amendment to our rules of procedure, today's going to be our first reading and first approval. It'll have to come back to us at the next one, and then it still has to go to city commission for
That's correct.
ratification. Okay.
Exactly. And I was going to explore that, because I wanted everybody to understand it doesn't start tomorrow.
Yeah.
And some people here probably would like to see it start tomorrow. In any case, I'll be happy to take a vote now. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any noes, say no. The only other thing I'm going to ask, Ms. Van Dam, could you please send your approval that it meets the legal requirements to me in writing?
Absolutely.
As stipulated in our rules of procedure, so I have that in writing.
Sure.
Very good. Is there any other subjects that anybody needs to bring up? If not, what I'd like to do is mention that our vice chairman has been chairman for the last year, Mr. Roy De Los Santos. And I wanted to point out that over the last year, he's made a lot of improvements and corrections and changes and has advanced our board tremendously in the year that he was chairman. He's done a great job, and he also did a great job in helping us deal with the cases that came before us. And I think I can speak for the board. I want to give him a public thank you for what you've done in the last year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one more thing,
yes.
Mr. Chair. I know you and I touched on this, and I was going to bring it up to staff also. Because we've got some new faces on staff, it might be a good opportunity for new orientation, so that the new staff members are also on the same page as the board.
Perfect.
And I think, do we have anybody that had missed the orientation?
Yes.
Okay. That'll be perfect.
I don't think Lizette was available for orientation
Okay.
the last time.
She was, she did attend, I
Did
believe.
she?
Yes, she
I
did.
don't recall.
I know Ms. Loya has been out. She had been out for some time, so she wasn't able to attend our last one.
Okay.
And so we can do it again.
There might have
whenever you
been
all
two
would like.
people. I'm trying to remember. At an
I
orientation.
believe Mr. Metzger may not have been here, or I
That's
don't
another
recall.
good point. Yeah, at least two people. At an orientation, are we allowed to discuss changes to our rules of procedure, or is that a workshop? Or can they be combined?
They can be combined as long as we're not taking a vote there at
Okay.
that session. The
And
vote
as
would have to
long-
come back to a meeting.
Anytime that we meet and we have quorum, we do post it, and we upload it onto the website. We post it here at City Hall. So as long as we get legal's approval to move forward, then we should not have a problem. I know we've had workshops in the past to discuss our rules of procedure when we were first creating them.
Fine, and we're going to do that, but hold off on assigning a date yet.
Yes.
Because there's a
Whenever
couple
you
other.
all would like, you let me know.
Couple other things that I want to take a look at, and we could throw it all in the same pot at the same time in terms of rules, not major things, minor things, but nonetheless, the table of contents, in fact, on section 1 doesn't match the rules. As an example, things we got to clean up a little bit. I will send to you in writing the need to put what we just did for next month as well.
Absolutely.
Because if we want to add something to the agenda, it has to be in writing, you'll get that from me.
Perfect.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved?
Second? We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, aye.
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 The meeting is adjourned at 6:22.
Thank you.
Thank you.